So let's talk about the impacts that COVID-19 has had so far. Of course, across the state, we've seen big impacts on multiple different sectors, but in terms of tourism, what have been some of the hardest hit sectors that you've seen?
Well, I think the whole entire spectrum of hospitality industry related jobs were the first hit and have been the hardest hit. And I know that people have been reading and coming across all kinds of statistics, but the one that really stuck out to me the most, and this is of course throughout the country, not just Kentucky, but there were 15 million people employed in hospitality related jobs at the beginning of March. And we are now at the end of May down to 8 million. So practically half of our industry has either been furloughed or let go. And I think that is a massive number when you let it sink in. So what you've seen on the national level is exactly the same thing that's happened in Kentucky. It's fair to say that about 3/4 of the industry, hospitality industry in Kentucky, has either been furloughed or laid off as a result of this pandemic. So it has hurt very hard. But I'm the eternal optimist. And so I have been very quick to say that while this pandemic has devastated us, it has not defeated us. And I'm very glad that we are at a position where we can be talking honest about our reopening and recovery.
Absolutely. So we are starting to reopen slowly but surely and in a very thoughtful and methodical way. But in terms of Washington and across the state, what have you seen people doing in order to prepare for reopening and prepare to get people back in their restaurants and in different tourism areas too?
Absolutely. As you mentioned, it has been a very thoughtful approach, very careful approach that is in large part thanks to the great leadership that we've had with our governor and his team. And I think that above all, I would say that the hospitality industry, the men and women that I'm talking to on a regular basis, are taking all of this very seriously. No one wants to reopen and then be the result or be the cause of, a step backwards. And so they're doing a lot of due diligence in terms of meeting the minimum requirements for healthy at work. You have to remember too that these organizations, these entities, they want to take really good care of their team first and foremost. You can't take care of the guest or a visitor in very good fashion if you're not taking care of your team first. And so they are wanting not only to make sure that they can open up and have people back in their restaurants or back in their hotels, but also that their places of employment are safe for their staff. So we have been working very diligently. As you probably know, Mayor Gorton sent a blueprint for reopening and recovery to Governor Beshear last week. I'm delighted that as a part of that process, she included the visitor services industry. We had 8 different subcommittees that met over the course of a couple weeks. We looked at all kinds of national guidelines and standards, what was being recommended by the governor, and what we put forth as a part of that blueprint, I feel like was a very good common sense approach for how to reopen. So what does that look like? I think that you will start to see a lot more signage. I think that you will, in a hotel, for example, it was all one of those, delicate issues where you didn't necessarily want to see the big housekeeping cart come through the lobby or in your corridor on the way to your room. I think you'll see all kinds of visual cues now that will give reassurances to folks that yes, we are cleaning and we're doing it regularly and you're going to be safe while you're at our place of business. And then of course, I think we'll have to do we'll have to slowly get back to the group side of what we do. So we'll be able to offer tours, for example, in a couple of weeks at reduced capacity, but I still think it's a few weeks, months off from large, mass gatherings.
So, and once we get back to mass gatherings, how important is that in terms of tourism, because it really is what brings people to different states is big events and big conferences. And once we get back to that, how do we make people feel safe outside of what you've just mentioned too?
I think that, again, I think communication is key. There have been several folks I know and that I have a lot of respect for that have talked about the need for redundancy, right? That we just can't say it enough. And so I think communicating really in advance of people's visits. So if you're a conventioneer, in advance of your, on a plane to go to a convention in another city, you want to hear from that meeting planner and that association that says, here are all the things that we're doing to take care of you while you're here. When you arrive in the destination, you want to see and hear those messages that say, here are the things that we're doing to take care of you. And so I think that there will be a premium, obviously. I think health and safety is going to be the new luxury, and I think you're going to see that throughout the travel continuum, at least for the foreseeable future. And some of it, I believe, will be a positive legacy on the other side of all this, that we take people's health and safety. I mean, safety has always been, you know, at the forefront of the hospitality industry, but I think health will be right there as well. So as far as your question with respect to large gatherings, I mean, for us, you know, we're Kentuckians and we love having a good old get together, and we love being with people, and we love showing people that are visiting our state just all the fantastic things that we have to offer. And so they're very important to what we do, and people love coming. If it's, you know, a trip to Keeneland, that's a bucket list trip, or the Derby, which is another big bucket list item. If it's a competition out at the Kentucky Horse Park, or folks along our Kentucky Bourbon Trail, a large music festival, a big global convention like Alltech, which, you know, we're very fortunate to host here in Lexington every May. I think that deep down inside people, there is a genuine desire to gather with folks. And so we know that it will be back, and that it's going to be an important part of our strategy and recovery. I just don't think it's going to be phase one.
And a lot of people, we're already seeing some of our southern states have pretty much completely reopened. We see people taking vacations already. And obviously in Kentucky, we're not a beach, we're not Nashville, you know, but what are some maybe innovative approaches as we continue to reopen that Kentucky can take to maybe bring some more people here, or even get Kentuckians out into other areas across the state in terms of tourism, some maybe approaches that would encourage that?
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, there are so many places that really, especially it seemed like over Memorial Day weekend, just it like we flipped a switch or something, and people said, I want to be back out on the road. I do think there is a pent-up demand. And I think as far as the tourism industry goes, we're going to see the leisure drive market come back first. And so for Kentucky, I think that actually bodes very well. We have 7 contiguous states. We know that we're in a day's drive of about 2/3 of the United States population. So if you think about even just a 300-mile radius from Lexington, where I am today, there's a lot of people that we can touch and invite to the state. I know for my team at Visit Lex, we've been talking quite a bit about what that message is. And I think we're really going to play to the fact that we have wide open spaces. We're a state that is just abundant with natural resources, natural beauty, tons of outdoor adventure. Thank goodness it is the summertime and our lakes are back open. And so I think that we've got a lot that we can leverage in the first wave of this recovery. And I certainly know that our messaging is going to play to that in these first few weeks of reopening.
Now, through the pandemic, we've seen some federal funding in terms of, we've heard a lot about individual checks and things like the unemployment boost, but obviously there was some money for small businesses and other things as well. So what impact have you seen from federal legislation, including the CARES Act and others, on businesses in Lexington in particular?
So we are obviously very appreciative of the leadership that we've had at the congressional level. We're fortunate to have a good representation with our senators and our congressmen as well. And certainly the hospitality industry has been fortunate. I know I can just speak here on behalf of the 6th district that Congressman Barr has been very engaged with the hospitality industry specifically. The initial small business loans that were made available, as well as the Paycheck Protection Program, those things were lifelines, quite honestly, at the very beginning. I think what we are realizing now is that our recovery is going to be months, probably years in the making. And we believe that there's a need for more. And made that, I mean, when we've had the opportunity, we certainly have shared that message on behalf of our hospitality industry partners. There's just, there's no magic switch on and switch off to 8 weeks, or 3 months. I mean, we've got months and months of recovery ahead. And so for us, within this industry, I think any and all help that we can get at the federal level is most appreciated.
We've talked about a couple different things, but what do you think are the biggest lessons learned, especially in the tourism industry throughout this pandemic? Because this is something none of us have ever faced before, and so now moving forward as we reopen, what are some steps that you think we might need to take because of the things that we've learned through this?
Well, I think, probably one of my biggest takeaways is something that, rings familiar, but it's sort of been driven home at a level that is abundantly clear to me at this point. And that is that people want to feel safe when they travel. It does not matter if you are traveling for fun or for work, you're on the road to visit family and friends. We as human beings want some built-in assurances that what we're doing is safe to do. And I think that again, the industry has always had safety protocols in place. They've always taken it very seriously, but it hasn't been at the forefront of people's marketing messages or their community, communications. And so I think that you will see stronger sort of language and again, these visible cues that say to folks, you can feel safe here. You don't have to worry about this. Take this off your worry list. Go ahead and enjoy your vacation. Relax, breathe in some fresh air and enjoy what you have to offer here in the destination. So I think for sure that is going to be, one of the legacies of this. I also think that our industry has had to pivot in massive ways, right? We've had to basically reinvent the wheel on everything with respect to how we do marketing and communication, to how we host an event, to how we coordinate logistics. And so I think there'll be some really good things. I just know with our restaurant partners, one of the great, legacies of this entire pandemic is going to be the fact that many of them figured out how to do online ordering and delivery independent of, the standard third-party providers. And that's going to be a great thing for them to have moving forward. And so, I think, again, as I mentioned, I'm always the optimist. I'm always looking for the hope that's out there. And I think there are going to be some great, lessons for us in all this.
Now, is there anything that we haven't covered that you think is important for Kentuckians to know? Especially, we've had months now of being in our homes, and honestly, a lot of us being very scared of what's happened. And it's important, though, especially in Kentucky, for tourism to get back to normal. So is there anything that we haven't covered that you want people to understand?
I think I would just invite people throughout Kentucky to travel the state this summer. I know that by virtue of being in the travel industry in Kentucky, I have the opportunity to go all the time to meetings or conventions, Eastern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, and I'm unabashedly a very proud Kentuckian, and so I love getting in the car and checking out the spot. But I think it just goes, I think it's worth saying that we have so many fantastic assets right here in this state. And so as you are thinking about what you're going to be doing for your family vacation this summer, as you're thinking about getting out on the road because you've been kicked out of home for, the last 3 months, and you think about where you'd like to go, I would just invite people to start right here. I think we have a beautiful state and we have so many wonderful things to offer. We know by virtue of, again, of being in Kentucky during this pandemic that a lot of concern and care is going into these reopening measures. So I think we can feel very safe being back out on the road in Kentucky. And it's a great way to help really stimulate the economy and help get our hospitality industry back on track.